All right, y'all, we got a fun one today because we got a JJK Hunter x Hunter crossover, and I love this art so much. But Perry asked me what I think the JJK characters' Nen Affinities would be if we dropped them into the Hunter x Hunter verse. So let's talk about it. All right, so first of all, a quick refresher on the Nen Affinities, of which there are six. We've got enhancement, emission, manipulation, specialization, conjuration, and transmutation. And there's a quick little blurb about each one if you need the reminder. Now, obviously, placing JJK characters on this map is not going to be a perfect one-to-one process, but Hunter x Hunter was largely the blueprint for JJK, so I will say it's probably easier than comparing, some other shonen mangas to each other. But that being said, it's obviously not going to be perfect, and this is largely interpretive. So I would love to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments on how you disagree with me or how you would classify even other characters that I don't talk about. So definitely let me know, because this is a cool idea. All right, let's kick things off with the King of Curses, Sukuna himself, in what may be a controversial placement right off the jump. But I am saying that he is a full-blooded enhancer, 100%. And he is the pinnacle of strength in this verse and just shows us what you can be capable of if you fully master things like that. Now, you might be saying, wait, but how do cleave and dismantle and, the fire arrow play into enhancement? And here's what I'll say. If you'll notice that emission and transmutation are the two closest to enhancer, and if you'll recall, on the Nen Affinity hexagon, the things you're closest to are the things you're also the best at, right? So I think Sukuna reached pinnacle enhancement and then dabbled into emission, which is what I would probably call cleave and dismantle, and then also dabbled into transmutation, turning his aura into the flames for the fire arrow. And just like Isaac Netero, one of the pinnacles of strength in Hunter x Hunter, he was a full-blooded enhancer, and yet his Hatsu, the Bodhisattva, was not very enhancement based, if that makes sense. So I think Sukuna would be an enhancer, and he just shows us like what you can truly be capable of if you take things to their absolute limits. Next up, let's just go ahead and talk about the other pinnacle of strength in the verse, Gojo, and I'm going to place him as an emitter because I feel like that just makes the most sense with his red and his blue and his purple. He's literally emitting the aura from his body and, using it in creative ways. Now, I could see an argument for specialist just because of the complexity of Infinity and what he can do with it, and also the six eyes, but that's where we get a little bit murky because, the six eyes aren't a curse technique. They're just part of his physiology. So in Hunter x Hunter, would it also just be like part of his physiology, or are we going to consider them a Hatsu? Because if we're going to make them a Hatsu, then maybe I could see specialist or at least leaning more that way. But I think emitter just makes the most sense. Next, let's talk about Geto and Kinjaku kind of at the same time. So first for Geto, I would place him as a full-on manipulator. I think that's the closest we're going to get to make sense of cursed spirit manipulation in a Hunter x Hunter world. I mean, it does have manipulation in the title, but the way that he controls these other entities, right? I think that just makes the most sense. And then for Kinjaku, I feel like none of them really make a bunch of sense for him, which means he's going to be a specialist, right? Maybe with a slight lean toward manipulation, like maybe he's one of those manipulators that became a specialist later in life, just because of the way the body swap works. He's like manipulating someone else's body, right? But it's also just him at that point. So I would say specialist, but maybe a little bit of both. And then while we're on the subject of specialists, Yuta Okkotsu would definitely be one. The way his copy technique works, the way he has Rika, like it's definitely very unique and not something you could place into any one of the individual affinities, in my opinion. Plus, if we want to look at, copy technique as an idea, Crollo is probably the closest we can get to that, and he too is a specialist, right? And both of them have requirements they must meet in order to copy techniques, so I feel like this one just makes sense. And if you can't tell yet, we've just been moving around the wheel. So next up, we've got a conjurer, and I think Nobara would be a good example of this. It's obviously not perfect, but the way I envision her technique working in the world of Hunter x Hunter would be that she conjures the straw doll and also conjures the hammer and the nails out of her aura, and then they provide this unique effect that we see with the resonance and the soul damage, if we want to call it that. So that would be my best guess, but I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on how you would place Nobara. Next up, we've got Megumi, and I feel like he fits rather well into the transmuter category because the way we understand Ten Shadows in JJK is that he is transforming his shadows into the Shikigami, right? So if you want to think about it in a Hunter x Hunter aura sense, he is transmuting his aura into the shadow that then forms these beasts, right? There's an argument to be made that you could say it's conjuration, like he's conjuring the Shikigami, but I think it leans more towards transmutation, but maybe we could place him somewhere in between the two. And last but not least, we got the MC himself, Yuji Itadori, and I saved him for last because I think he's the most interesting case here, because it would be so easy to just call him an enhancer and call it a day, right? Because for 95% of this series, he was just out there throwing hands. He's much stronger than everybody else, much more durable, a lot faster. Not everybody else, but you guys get what I'm saying. And that's all like classic enhancement qualities, right? But that doesn't really do him justice. So I think Yuji is a specialist, and that's a product of all of the unique things that ended up happening to him in the series. And I'm going to keep this roughly spoiler free for people that haven't seen JJK, but given what ultimately happens with Yuji, I think specialist is the only thing that makes sense. And then it's just really a question of, do you think he was always a specialist and just mistakenly thought he was enhancement until, later in life? Or was he truly enhancement that then just unlocked and became a specialist later in life? And I know there's not much of a difference there, but there is when it comes to the world of Hunter x Hunter, which is what we're trying to classify. So in my opinion, I would call him an enhancer that then became a specialist, but would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Shout out to Perry. Thank you for the fun idea, man. And again, let me know y'all's thoughts down below because I'd love to hear how you guys would place these characters. But as always, thank you guys for watching.